finally been released to Disney Plus after it was originally supposed to be in theaters, and is the long-awaited return of iconic Pixar director Pete Docter. When middle school teacher Joe Gardner gets the music gig of his life, an accident causes his, soul to be separated from his body, and he is transported to the U seminar. Joe teams up with a fellow soul named 22 in order to get back to his body on Earth. You know where this is going. It's Pixar. Are we surprised? Are we surprised it's good? Well, after Onward, maybe I'm a little bit surprised. Not that Onward was bad, it was just, eh. What I'm trying to say is, yes, Soul is very good, and is indeed better than Onward. I'm just saying. This movie is made by Pixar, so of course the animation, just overall visuals are out of this world. And I mean that quite literally. I mean the textures, the lighting, the character designs, just the color palette. It was so great. It was so great. I also really liked the use of traditional animation, which was used when Joe transitioned from the entrance to the Great Beyond to the Great Before, or U Seminar, whatever it was. Speaking of hand-drawn animation, I totally forgot to mention the Spark short that was supposed to come before Soul in theaters called Burrow. It is so adorable. The animation reminded me of Ernest and Celestine, and I really hope Pixar does a full-length movie with hand-drawn animation someday. And the score for that sequence was just really lovely. Didn't a member of 9 Inch Nails compose the soundtrack? The score overall was just very beautiful and ethereal, and I thought it fit the mood of the movie perfectly, considering how existential it is. I really applaud this movie for, a number of things. One, representation. I saw a number of people on Twitter really happy about the character designs, and that made me happy, as well as being way more mature compared to other Pixar movies. There's some very mature and thought-provoking things in this movie, like existentialism and anxiety. I don't know, I just really like the world building of the Great Before and the Great Beyond, even though we don't see much of the Great Beyond, but the Great Before was really cool. Seeing an interpretation of where personalities and passions and interests come from was just really interesting to see. And there's this one part of the movie where they talk about being in the zone, and they demonstrate this by having Joe play the piano, and he's in the zone, so he kind of loses a sense of, reality and just being in the moment. I don't know how to describe it. In the movie, when you're doing one of your passions, like playing the piano or just basically anything, you could be in the zone. And I really like that they said that you can go in too deep and you can lose yourself. And I never really thought of that, where you're basically living, but not totally living. You're just surviving. I don't know, I just never thought of that way, and I kind of sort of can't believe Pixar went in that direction and actually talked about a mature subject matter like that. I really liked it. And if you want to talk about Soul being mature, you can mention the fact that it uses the word hell quite a lot.
Hell?
I never thought I would hear a Disney movie use the word hell more times than The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I'm sending it back to hell, where it belongs. Hellfire! And let her taste the fires of hell! Hellfire!
Okay, let's talk about characters. I thought Joe Gardner was a very intriguing protagonist. I loved seeing his passion for jazz music and his determination to get this big gig that he's always wanted. He was just a really cool character to follow around in the movie. And I thought that 22, the soul that Joe teamed up with in order to get back to Earth, I thought she was pretty interesting. I like the fact that she chooses to sound like a middle-aged white lady, and they actually talk about that in the movie, which I thought was super funny. And she says probably my favorite line of dialogue from the movie. You can't crush a soul here. That's what life on Earth is for. Oh yeah, and she's kinda sorta confirmed arsonist, so take that for what you will. She is quite the pessimist and just doesn't know what the point of life is, but she does say some stuff about the education system, and I'm not going to argue with her. Let's not forget about Terry, who's an accountant for the U Seminar, who is not technically the antagonist, but more of an obstacle because he's just doing his job. And for some reason, he looks strangely similar to Emile from Ratatouille. I thought that was weird, but he also had a cool design. I think my favorite scene in the movie, it was the barbershop scene. That was one of, if not my favorite scene. The environment felt so realistic, and this might be pretentious, but human. These characters that are just 3D models from a computer just felt so realistic. This is the scene where Daveed Diggs' character Paul makes his appearance, and he's basically there to roast the crap out of Joe, which kinda sorta leads to my nitpicks of the movie. I thought Paul was gonna be in the movie more, because I saw that Daveed Diggs was voicing him, and I was kind of sort of expecting more screen time from him. And I should say that his character's mental state is just left in the open. I shouldn't spoil it, but there's a scene where Paul's mental state alters, and it's just left in the open. I think we're supposed to laugh and move on from this throwaway joke, but I am genuinely worried for this dude. And for some reason, we never see him again, and he's never mentioned. Like, dude, Paul, are you okay? However, I do think it's really cool to see Hamilton cast members get voiceover roles. First, it was Philippa Sue as the iconic Changa in Over the Moon, and now it's Daveed Diggs as Paul in Soul. I hope Leslie Odom Jr. is next, because I just think Aaron Burr voicing an animated character is just really cool, and I really hope we see that someday. But honestly, we need more Daveed Diggs in animation in general. He was Tunde in Undone, now Paul in Soul, and I'm curious to see what else is next for him. Okay, but back to nitpicks. Joe hates cats for some reason, which I don't approve of. And yeah, this is another POC character transforming into something else during their movie, but at least we see more of the POC on screen. Granted, Joe in his human form doesn't have the voice of Jamie Foxx for a big chunk in the movie, but still. I can't go any further than that, but Soul isn't quite there to have an animated movie with the black character stay black. But I think it's more than The Princess and the Frog, so progress? I don't know, but we're getting there, and we will get there one day, someday. But overall, I still really like this movie. If you think about it, it's kind of Disney Pixar's version of The Good Place with their own interpretation of the afterlife and how it works, and I'm still processing the fact that the show ended. But I do love the mature themes, and I think this movie is targeted to an older crowd rather than children, which I really like, and I want to see Pixar do more of that in the future. And I can't wait for the Soul documentary whenever that's supposed to come out. It's going to be about the final months of production during the pandemic and how the crew members had to struggle and adapt, and I think that's going to be really interesting. I think Soul is the best Pixar movie since Coco, and I really can't wait to see what Pete Docter will direct next. On the rainbow scale, Soul is a blue movie. If you enjoyed my review for Soul, be sure to comment, like, subscribe for future movie reviews and movie commentaries, and I'll see you later.